Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I'm very happy that so many people have actually turned up on a weekday for a book launch, despite the authors of the book not really advertising it on the social media. So, okay. So the first question, that comes into my mind is, I've seen, one individual write a book. I've seen two people come together write a book. I've even seen four people come together and write a book. Why three? What's the logic here? Why, if I were to sort of use two examples from Hindi cinema, one is obviously Tridev, the other is Trimurti. Tridev was a hit, Trimurti flopped. So, why three?
So if I think of an English saying that actually goes against us, two is company and three is a crowd. But we managed to not make it a crowd. And that's because each of us has different areas of expertise. So my expertise is personal finance. And there is a part of this book which is devoted to the personal finance lessons from Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. So Aparajita and I worked on that part together, and the first part, which is a biography of him. And Aditya, of course, has great equity research skills. And the second part of the book is 3 stocks that made his fortune and 3 mistakes that he made. So we needed somebody to go into the depth of those stocks, look at the financial statements, and figure out what the story was of those companies. And that's what Aditya did really brilliantly. So that's how the 3 of us came together.
Any one of you would like to add?
And we really wanted to be the first one in the market. So producing this book, and we could really do it. And 3 people coming together and doing it. So it has really come out well, and in record time we did it. So
Yeah. So did you guys fight?
no, not at all. It's been really great experience working with both of them. And usually too many cooks spoil the curry, but it did not happen with us.
Is that a politically correct answer?
No, it's not. It's really not.
So surprisingly, no, because I believe that we as individuals are very different. We have different backgrounds. We brought something very different to the book. And still, people told us that it didn't feel like it was written by 3 different authors. And of course,
that is what I wanted to ask you guys, because people have inherently different writing styles. So how did you, having read the book, it doesn't feel like there are 3 people writing it. So how did you manage that part of it?
So I think Aparajita did a really good job of bringing these 3 voices in sync. And the editors at Penguin, they really managed to. So the initial draft was 3 different voices, but these 2 people put it together, I would say.
Okay. So the editors actually put in some work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and journalism.
No, I mean, in my experience, that doesn't happen. So you guys have been.
No, for us at least,
lucky.
journalism did come handy. So, so we had different versions. And first I looked at it and weaved a story, and then Neil looked at it. And the things that Aditya wrote, both of us.
Right. No, journalists anyway are pretty good at writing fast and writing to a tight deadline. I mean, the longer deadline you give them, the work you get is I mean, so you have to give them a tight deadline, put them on a leash, and get them to deliver very fast. Okay. The next question I wanted to ask you was how, and pardon my, I'm a writer, so I had a few writing questions, and then we'll get into what the general janta is interested in. What I wanted to ask you next was, how was Rakesh Jhunjhunwala challenging as a subject? And I'm sure, each one of you has a different answer for that.
So there were 2 diametrically opposite challenges. One is that there is a huge amount of material available on him, interviews he's given over the years, newspaper articles about him. He was out there and he was everywhere. So imagine the effort it took to read and look through those thousands of videos and articles. The other challenge was he was no more. When we started writing the book, our subject was no more. And the family was in mourning, so getting them on board was an impossible task, and we respect their privacy. So we relied on people who worked with him, and a lot of those spoke off record because nobody wanted to, wanted to create controversy. So we had these two simultaneous challenges on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And that kind of sums it up.
I mean, for me, the biggest challenge was, some of his talks did not really have any information related to them. So if I talk about a company like, say, A to Z Infra, or say Mandhana, right? These companies never had any information out there in the public domain. So thankfully, equity research skills came in handy. I studied the companies from inception, and I just tried to connect the dots. When what did RJ do at this point of time, when the results were good, when the results were bad. Try to just bring about a correlation with them. And the biggest challenge, of course, for me was Aparajita and Neela are journalists. I'm not. So whatever.
No, I mean the amount of tweeting you do, you are more journalist than a journalist. So.
So exactly my point, right? The kind of content I put out is very short format or something like that, right? So
that is what journalism is now. So it's not.
So I mean, that was my challenge. Just really trying to find out.
I had a slightly controversial question here. As someone who studies and writes on capital markets, your information would be limited to what Rakesh, the investments of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in companies where he would have greater than 1% stake. Yeah. What about companies where he had less than 1% stake?
I mean, by virtue of shareholding patterns, there must be a lot of companies where Rare Enterprises or RJ or Rekha Jhunjhunwala would have held stakes, right? But these were positions they did not really want to bring out in the open. So there's no way of really knowing it that they had a certain position, and again, there's no way of knowing or correlating that, okay, they are bullish on this stock or they are bearish on this stock, because when you have a position which is greater than 1%, you can automatically track the company. Okay, they cut stake in this quarter, they increased stake in this quarter. So you can't really find a correlation. Now, when we wanted to talk about RJ, we of course wanted to talk about the biggest winners and biggest losers, and that is what we have done.
Okay, Aparajita.
Yeah, so major challenge with me was obviously finding people. So I knew who to approach, but getting them speak about him was really a major challenge, because of course family initially did not come forward, and obviously it was not the right time for them to speak to us, but them not coming forward became a challenge for us, because other people, they were uncomfortable talking about him unless family comes on board. So, and I really wanted to focus on Rakesh Jhunjhunwala as a person. And we tried our best. We could still, being journalists, we could still find off-record sources and speaking to employees who worked there. We worked with him closely and speaking to dealers, brokers. So those people really helped us.
Possibly you can write a sequel in the years to come. And
yeah, I do intend to. I keep interacting with people and telling them that if you know them, anyone who knew him personally, do come out and speak.
I remember you told me you were in Singapore and you wanted to talk to Jim Rogers. Did you do that? Did that happen?
No, it could not happen.
Okay, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so actually we turned that into an advantage. When you have an authorized biography, the subject often controls the narrative, especially when the subject is powerful and when they have a monopoly on information. So the fact that we didn't, sorry, is there a...
No, we can hear you.
The fact that we didn't do it on the family's behest is actually allowed us to be critical, and we were critical in many parts.
In fact, yeah, you wanted to... You want to say something more? No, I mean, more often than not, authorized biographies are controlled by the individual, on whom the biography is being written. And I mean, the only two examples that I can think of offhand where there was no control, actually three. One was the biography that Om Puri's wife wrote on him. Then there was obviously Walter Isaacson's biography on Steve Jobs. And third was the most recent, where Nawazuddin Siddiqui, wrote his own. He wrote an autobiography, and then within 4 days of the release of the book, he got the publisher to pulp it. So I think the publisher was Penguin. So what's the one thing that surprised you the most while writing the book about Mr. Jhunjhunwala? Because as you said, he was so out there in the media that whatever his public positions have been on things are pretty well known. So what is that one thing that really surprised you?
Basically his patience. So there are some, I mean, he was known to be patient and long term, but a lot of people don't realize the extent to which his patience ran. So there is this popular myth, or not myth, but this popular story that he goes and buys Titan in 2002, which becomes the biggest wealth creator for him over the next 2 decades. And we found an interview by a Titan executive which said that actually he had started building his stake in the 90s. And that back then Titan was not a successful company. They had done an international foray in Europe which was not going well. The stock went nowhere in the 90s. Now, of course, he would have picked up a big stake in 2002, and we have written about that also. But clearly his attention was there a lot before what is popularly known.
Okay. And that, I didn't know about that. Aditya. You guys can cross talk also, yaar. I mean, thoda sa maza aayega usse to, you know. It's like, this is too politically correct, you know, allowing one person to speak at a time. And yeah, of course.
So two biggest, shocks for me were, number one, of course, building up upon Neil's answer. So it was 2002, and it was 2000 actually, and it was a Capital Ideas conference, and Mr. RJ was just talking about his Titan position. Now the whole world has been sold on the idea that Mr. Jhunjhunwala came into the company when it was a penny stock. He gets 300-400 crores of dividend every year, this and that, right? But the story is completely different. It's 2002, and Morgan Stanley has a big block deal happening on Titan. A broker called Daki calls up RJ, and he's like, "मेरे को माल बेचने का है, आपको खरीदने का है क्या?" And he's like, "मैं को बताता हूँ." And then he calls up his friend Rakshit, and Rakshit is like, Morgan Stanley तेरे घर पे आके 50% डिस्काउंट पे देके जाएगा, right? But RJ style he's like, अरे मैंने रक्षित को गोली मारी, and I bought the 30 lakh का block. And it was only after that, Mr. RJ went and met the then MD of Titan, Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, and he just narrates the story of how the office was very vibrant. You could just feel the energy in the office, and the way Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, spoke about the company, how they're going to turn things around. It was very recent when they forayed into jewelry. So one more thing that he says, and the thing that I remember very clearly is that he says that इस कंपनी का मार्जिन 15-20 साल में 12-14% जाएगा, and that is the time to sell it. And you won't believe he was spot on. 2022 Titan hit a 14% margin. And number two was, of course, like I said, building up upon my first part, he was quite, he did not really pay a lot of, sometimes he did not really pay a lot of attention to the numbers or the narratives, because again, when he entered into Titan was going through a very bad phase. So again, comparing two examples, Titan and DHFL, he had met Mr. Vadhavan, the promoter of DHFL, on a flight, and the moment the flight landed, he narrates the incident that, he thought to himself कि यार ये बंदा इतना अच्छा है, इसका price to book value 1.3 है, ये company बहुत अच्छा करेगी. So, he bought Titan on the same mindset, quick mathematics, 5 minutes mathematics. He bought DHFL with the same kind of mindset. But, Titan worked out very well for him. DHFL did not work out for him.
Yeah,
So
Titan was a Tata company. DHFL wasn't, so yeah.
No, but still.
No, that's a joke.
So he would.
You don't have to defend it. Yeah, sorry.
So buy now, investigate later. So Ramesh Damani, I believe, told us that he used it to you just buy it right now, and we'll get into numbers later. So you have to get that timing right. So that was amazing about him. And then to me, his leverage bets. So obviously I knew that he will take debt, and that is how he built his positions, trading, etc. But in one of interviews, he told that he only deployed 1 lakh in trading, and everything else is profits. So that was amazing to know. So only 1 lakh he deployed in trading, and rest he earned through profits. So, and in one of interviews, he told us that, not us, in one of interviews he mentioned that he doesn't sleep well if he has money in bank account. He sleeps well when he pays interest. So I did not had an inkling that he's too much into leverage bets, and he would not even have money in bank accounts. Who doesn't have money in bank accounts? He wouldn't. So that was really surprising for me.
You guys have already answered my next question. So Titan is the only stock on which my father has ever made money. And he's been talking about it for the last 3 decades, and he still talks about it. And he doesn't like to refer to the fact that all his other investments have essentially sort of gone bust, including this company which I think Sunil Gavaskar used to advertise for. It was called All Seasons. And he lost a lot of money in the 1994 Vanishing Companies scam, which I think was a bigger scam than both Mr. Mehta and Mr. Parekh. But nobody seems to sort of talk about it, wherein a lot of promoters launched IPOs, took money and ran. So, again, continuing with Titan a little bit, how did he have that kind of vision? Because, see, it wasn't, it was basically a company which made watches initially, right? And then they disrupted their business model multiple times. So how did something like that happen? I mean, how do you have the vision to see that something like this is likely to unfold?
I mean, honestly, we do not really know the real answer. Maybe it could have been just a leap of faith.
You can speculate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I mean, I honestly think it was a leap of faith because, he saw what was happening in India. The kind of gold that was being sold was impure. We also saw that how Titan innovatively, tried to convert all of that impure gold into pure gold. So basically what Titan did in the start of that decade was they started importing these carat meter machines, right? So these were very expensive machines for that time, it costed 40 lakhs a piece or something like that. These guys started putting up those machines and they encouraged people to get their gold and get it checked. Now initially they just thought of getting it checked, but consumers just checked their gold, they just abused their local jewelers and then ran away. So the Titan team was very confused, they really wanted sales to pick up, they weren't picking up. And then they got an idea that, what if they could convert all of that impure gold into pure gold at no cost. So Titan has done a lot of innovative things on the way. And like I said, it was a leap of faith. RJ knew that, okay, this disorganized or unorganized market is going to become organized. We Indians had always loved gold, so maybe it was a bet on that. And as simple as that. I mean,
And
there's
he
nothing
trusted
else.
the management, I believe. But whatever they'll do, it will come out well. So that could be another reason.
So that leads us to the next question. What happened with DHFL?
He
Because
was
you
the right person
just said
to
he
tell
trusted the management. So
obviously, everybody makes mistake, and he's quite great at accepting his mistakes. So I mean, we shouldn't.
So can you guys, starting with Neil, talk a little bit about the mistakes that he made over the years?
So actually, Aditya is probably the best person to answer that because he wrote the section on the 3 big mistakes that we've identified. DHFL.
You can also sort of add a little of, you've also been a part of the journey, so.
Sure. So I think with DHFL, clearly he didn't do his homework. He did it, it seems, on quite a bit of intuition, on meeting the promoter and deciding things too quickly. And some of it was simply, how could you have told? It was a fraud, right? So identifying a fraud is very difficult. You can identify, I mean, there are very senior fund managers sitting in this room, so they know this far better than I, but you can identify a poor company probably easier than you can identify an outright fraud, because an outright fraud stuff is hidden. Aditya, if you want to add to that.
Hello. So Vivek, by law of investing, if you say pick 20 stocks in your portfolio, say 3 or 4 are going to create a lot of wealth for you, 10 to 12 are going to stay flat, and 2, 3 are going to probably go bust or go negative, right? So I believe, in the whole universe of things or the whole universe of holdings for RJ, it was a small blip for him. Now, building up upon Aparajita's answer, he maybe took the management too seriously. Now, again, going back to the Titan example, when he started investing in 2002, they were facing huge losses in the Europe division, and the net profits had just halved from 40 crores to 20 crores. So it was the worst time to get in into the stock, and maybe he kind of extrapolated that to DHFL as well, because when he narrated the incident of investing in DHFL, he talks about how cheap the company is and how big it can become. So RJ always had 2 things common in all his investments. Number 1 was the scope of size that he always foresaw. When it came to DHFL, he always said that, the affordable housing space is going to become very big. Of course, it did not really pick up that time, but now, of course, we see it picking up. And number 2 was, of course, the management. Now, you can just appreciate that, on just a 1-hour flight, he got convinced on the DHFL story. He met Mr. Wadhwan. He got sold on his dreams. When he narrates the incident, he's like, uske baap ne company start ki thi, and wo ye bhi chala raha hai banda, bahut hi driven hai, all that. So, Bhaskar Bhatt and Mr. Vadhavan. So, very different instances, but the common thread between them is that, the promoter vision, taking it at face value, and number two, of course, was the scope of size.
Yeah, so I already talked about it, that people make mistakes. We cannot blame him about him, that he cannot be right every time. So,
Right.
yeah.
I remember going to meet Sunny Vadhavan, who's also part of the, I don't remember his real name, but he used to go by the name of Sunny Vadhavan, and HDIL was the company that, the kind of opulence was in his office room. That itself told me that, there's something which is very iffy about this company. So, okay. Now, Aparajita, you have to essentially tell us that because everyone here is interested in stories. What was the most interesting story for you in the book? And that may not necessarily have been in the section that you wrote.
So so I spoke to a lot of people closer to him and even employees. So
Why don't you give us something which is not there in the book?
Which is not there in the book. That will be really hard to recall.
We'll get it edited, don't worry. So.
That's really difficult to recall right now. But the most, what I found odd, a little controversial, and it's there in the book, that he would if he's hospitalized, then he would notice who all have come to meet him in person. And one of company promoters, he did not turn up, and it did upset him somewhere. And it had other reasons. This company, it had other reasons also. I have mentioned the company name as well in the book, Delta Corp. So that guy, he did not meet him in person in hospital. So he never spoken publicly about it, that why exactly he sold his stake in Delta Corp. He never went public about it, I believe. And there are obviously fundamental reasons as well, because this company did not get license at Daman, and they were really waiting for it for a long time, and it did not happen. So obviously this could be a reason. But that person, one of record sources, did tell me that no, he would also notice who all people are out there meeting him, talking to him. So he had this thing.
So are there any journalists in the room other than people on, because you've got your viral story for tomorrow morning. Anyway.
It's there in the book. So.
No, I mean, it's there in the book, but for that you have to read the book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, only quote Aparajita, not us.
Okay, Aditya, what was your story of the book? So, and give us a different one. And you can think, meanwhile, you have it, okay, fine.
So all three of us, we had gone to Joffrey's, which is on Marine Lies. That was his favorite spot, basically. So we just went there, we sat in his favorite spot, we spoke to a few other waiters. We just tried to ask what he liked to drink, what he liked to eat. So, in earlier days when he was quite healthy, so his go-to choice was a black label and fried chana. And as he became healthier, right, so it was boiled eggs. So he would have a black label and 2 boiled eggs. And we just spoke to the waiters there, and we asked them as well, what was the average tip that he used to give. So they told us that it was 2,500. And we asked them what is the average tip of Joffrey. So they are like around 6,000-7,000.
Oh my God.
So he was a value investor wherever he went. So yeah, that's a fun story from my side.
6,000 rupees. I mean, what are we doing here? So.
I mean, we seriously questioned our careers after that.
Neat.
So mine's a somewhat serious memory after that note. So it is his big successful bet on the Madhu Dandavate budget, which made his initial trading money. So this was 1990, and there was no reason to be optimistic about India. This is before the 91 reforms, and the market was not...
You need to tell the millennial audience here that Madhu Dandavate was the finance minister before Manmohan Singh became the finance minister. So it's much before when Vishwanath Pratap Singh was the prime minister in his government.
And he was a socialist, so not perceived as market friendly. But Rakesh took a big positive bet, contrary to what the market expected, and made a phenomenal amount of money on it.
That's a very interesting story.
And I did recall something which is not in the book. So we intentionally put it out of the book. So a lot of people keep saying that Rakesh Jhunjhunwala made all his money through insider trading and a lot of these allegations. So one thing, obviously, even with information you cannot make money. If you have all the information, even if there will be people who cannot make money. So we should not say that all his wealth is due to insider trading. But one incident that one of people who worked with him shared with me, that there was this MNC stock, I won't name the stock, and it wasn't budging. Whatever the breakout level was, it wasn't going beyond it for a long, long time. And one fine day, it did happen around 1 o'clock. And quickly, this person informed Jhunjhunwala that it has happened. So what action do we take? So he told him to wait it out for a while. And around between 3 and 3:30, he calls him back saying that buy the amount. So it happened, and then by the evening, news came out related to this company. One of news came out, and obviously next day stock performed quite well. So he did buy those quantities between 3:30, but not huge amounts. So again, if he actually knew that something is about to happen, so he could have bought in droves, but he did not. It was a very small quantity given his portfolio. So it's open to conjecture. It's up to you to decide whether it was.
So gives me my next question, Aditya. There have been occasions where RJ has, he bought stocks on the basis of news, right? And it went wrong. So can you just tell us a little about it? No, I mean, talk in general terms. You don't have to. I mean, I don't want any of you getting sued tomorrow morning. So, I mean, I'm also here. They might sue me as well. So.
I mean, Vivek, the way I see it, I mean, it was a way of generating pocket money for him. So when I was in college, I used to dabble in IPOs. I used to sometimes trade on tips, right? Because it's human tendency. कभी-कभार kick चाहिए होती है, market.
It's quick, easy money.
हाँ, it's quick, easy money, right? मतलब खबर आती है and you believe it, right? मतलब people tell you tips as if they are the promoter of the company, which they are not. But you tend to believe them कि मतलब पूरी कायनात साथ में आके ये पूरा कर देगी.
So these days we call them, social media influencers. So not you, but there are too many of them out there. So.
Okay, no comments on that. But I think, yeah, I mean, the way I see it, it was kind of a pocket money. It was a kind of a quick get in, get out kind of a trade. Because if you see the quantum of money he put in, that itself justifies, compared to his net worth, 10-20 crore dala, compared to 20
Basically, if one were to sort of intellectualize this a little, it was probably a way of keeping his adrenaline sort of.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, today also I see a lot of people who are, they are hardcore long-term investors, but when a good IPO comes and, they want to create some pocket money, they'll go ahead and do it. It's a way of generating party fund. I mean, nothing wrong with it.
No, just wanted to add one thing, and this is a very curious thing about Rakesh, that he used to invest and trade in the same stocks. I don't know how you maintain that mental partition, but he somehow did.
Okay, that's quite interesting and weird at the same time. Okay, now, final question. What are the qualities that a retail investor can learn from RJ, and what are the things that they need to avoid?
So actually, when asked this question, he said that retail investors should stick to mutual funds. And that is sound advice.
But they're boring.
I mean, it's on the lines of what Warren Buffett said, that when he passes away, his wife should invest in an S&P 500 index fund. Again, makes perfect sense. But people who are really determined, who really want to get into the thick of things and analyze stocks, it just shows you that it's possible to create huge amounts of wealth. If you get your research right, if you hold the right stocks and for the right amounts of periods, you can make money. Maybe not as much as him. You can't get to 35,000 crores very easily. But at your own scale, you can make more money than you would have otherwise.
So Vivek, I have learned a lot from RJ. When I was starting my investing journey, I just asked a classmate of mine in college who was dabbling in IPOs. I told him, यार मुझे भी invest करना है markets में, मुझे भी तेरे पैसा कमाना है. He's like, तू सब कुछ छोड़, you read about RJ, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the big bull. And I'm like, ये बंदा कौन है?
Achha, you didn't know?
I don't know that time. I was very new to the markets. Okay. I did not know anything.
No, sitting here in Mumbai, we assume that.
So that was in Manipal. So I read up about him, and I have of course spent a lot of years in the market. So just trying to synthesize it. Two things that I really love about RJ is number one, the kind of conviction he has. And number two, when he had a lot of confidence in a particular company, he backed up the truck and loaded lots of stock. Titan, he did not sell when it went up 100x, 200x, 500x. It was almost like 25, 30,000x for him, right? If we talk about what is net worth today, it's 35,000 crores, and close to 13 to 14,000 crores of that net worth is just from a single stock, which is Titan. So you need you need to have a very clear and a very far away vision that I'll not sell at any cost.
And I mean, you need to be psychologically very, very tough.
Yeah. Talking about it is extremely simple. You will say that ये stock में 100x के बाद ही बेचूंगा, but when it does a 2x, अंदर से you will get an itch कि यार थोड़ा सा profit book कर लेता हूँ. But when RJ had such a big position, right? It became such a big position. He did not really book any profits, or he cut the position in a big way. A lot of trading happened, like Neil said, between Rekha and Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, but nothing major. So I believe conviction and I would say the ability to back up and load up on a lot of shares. So that's
Okay.
Yeah, so one thing to learn from him, being bullish on India. I don't think any other investor is so bullish about India and talking always positive that India GDP will touch 30 trillion and all those things he would say. So this is one positive thing. And what we should not learn from him, his concentrated portfolio. Larger part of his portfolio be invested in all equities, obviously, and in equities, key stocks, Lupin, Titan, all those things. So he himself used to say that asset allocation is important. He did not do it, but for retail investors, it's very important, and it's his own words that 60% of returns will come from asset allocation and 40% from your individual stock selection. So yeah, these two things.
In fact, Devina Mehra has a similar comment in the Mint today, where she
Yes,
said
exactly.
80%.
90%, I believe.
90% she said. Where in fact, asset allocation is it's one of the simplest things to learn, but it's so difficult to sort of implement because at the end of the day, it's very boring. So like when fixed deposits were giving 6%, 5.5%. It was very difficult to continue to have some money in FDs because when inflation is 7% and and when cryptos are giving 100% per day, why would you would look like an idiot being in FDs. But then only over a period of time when cryptos lost 100% in a day, you realize the importance of asset allocation. Okay, one last question and then we'll open it up. What next? कुछ तो होना चाहिए ना. I mean, you've started. You can't like write one book and then say ab ho gaya. So, I mean, general terms. Is there any other idea? Do you want to write another book, or it's like just done?
Yes, I absolutely do, and I mean, I have somebody in mind, perhaps India's greatest value investor. Some of you might immediately know who I'm talking about. And the people, not just him, but the people around him as a team who've really built up value investing in India. So I'm going to get started on that really soon. And yeah.
Yeah. Aditya?
So I have a slightly philosophical answer. Vivek, I am of the view that I have been very lucky. I have been at the right place at the right time. So, agar kismat mein ho to why not? Second book.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, so my favorite stock market book is Bull, Bears and Beast by Santosh Nair. So my dream book to write is about semi-fiction about stock market in which I can really, without
because
being
if he had
getting
written
sued-
non-fiction, he would have been fighting cases
Exactly,
for the
which is
rest
why
of
I
his
want to
life.
write a semi-fiction where real stories can be shared and without any consequences. So yeah, that's
Okay, they'll take questions from the audience, so please identify yourself and keep it short. I mean, just the question would be great. Okay. I mean, anyone who wants to ask a question can raise.
Hi. So we have this example, Titan. Amit Mudgil, Business Today. So we have this example, Titan's example, where the company was not doing well then in 90s, but he kept on building positions in the company, and later on it ended up being a big success story for him. But do we have any other example, I mean, that may be written in the book or may not be written in the book, where, he invested in a company which was in dire situation, and, it ended up being not only good for him, but also, a success story?
Yeah, so not in detail, but I did refer to one stock, Escorts. So Nikhil Nanda, so nobody was lending him money in around 2004. No banks, no NBFCs, and he met Nikhil Nanda, and he really liked him a lot and supported and invested in that company, and this stock really made money for him in following years.
Any other?
I think Barbecue Nation can be another, Nazara Technologies can be also another, where when the companies were struggling, but he made good money.
Barbecue. But it's not in the book. It's not in the book. We focused on 3 major companies, positive, and 3 negative.
Nanda is Amitabh Bachchan's son-in-law.
That was also another point, right? But still he could not get money. So it is surprising.
Yeah, hi. My name is Rajiv Thakkar. My question is, he was known to speak his mind, right? He was very frank in his interviews and all that. Did he get into trouble because of that? Any incidents that we know of?
Never. I don't think so.
I think if we invert it, in fact, people loved that behavior of his. I still remember he had a live interview a couple of years back, and on the phone itself, he's like, "Haan, Kalpesh bhej de." In fact, I have a WhatsApp sticker of that meme, that image as well. So, I mean, we don't know of any instance where he got into trouble, but on the contrary, it was quite fun.
So he was quite tough with journalists as well. So on CNBC, he's been known to...
I have a story there. So 2007, The Economist had organized a CFO conference at the JW Marriott in Juhu. And I was there, and as luck would have it, I was the only journalist there. And this was sort of what they call a fireside chat these days, very small group. And Mr. Jhunjhunwala was speaking very informally. And he said something to the effect of Sensex will touch 50,000 in 6-7 years. So 2007, so 2013-14. And those were the days when there was no internet. At least my phone did not have any internet. So I sort of messaged this to my boss, and he spiced it up, speaking exclusively to the newspaper I used to work for. And Jhunjhunwala says Sensex to touch 50,000, and it was splashed on the front page. And he had I had no idea because I went home. And he obviously had no idea of what he had said and how it would get played up. And the next morning, it was like a flyer, the main piece in the newspaper. And I go to the office and I see the newspaper and I'm like, now I've had it. And 5 minutes later, there is a call on my landline phone. And for 5 minutes, I was like, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir. It's constant abuse and no unparliamentary language. It was in English, and the next day the newspaper obviously carried an apology. So there was no problem with the reporting. It's just that that exclusive bit. If you would have just said that Mr. Jhunjhunwala at this conference said this, there's nothing wrong there. So.
And if not question, you can also share, maybe if you knew him personally, why not?
Hi, I'm Satya. I work with Neil in Mint for the personal finance team. You guys have your day job. How did you guys manage to write a book in such a short time? And the second question is, you guys must have been so involved in writing the book. Did you ever get Rakesh Jhunjhunwala in your dreams? Yeah.
No, not really, not in dreams, but yeah, it was really challenging writing the book and at the same time having a full-time job and all these deadlines. So whenever I would meet someone, the same day I will jot down key points. So I will have it somewhere in mind, written, handwritten, not phone or anything. So because when you are noting it down, then it registers in your mind. So in free time, I'll just ideate in mind. And writing part comes later. Writing part is much easier. ideating is much more important. So I remember in September we started writing it, and I had a fellowship in Singapore, and we had to submit 1/3 of the book by end of September. So I was there at hotel day and night. So for 20, I think 18, 19 hours, I was just confined in my hotel room, and I kept writing. And I finished doing that within 2 days. I did that. I had written nothing in previous weeks. Finished it in 2 days, but only because I was ideating all those days. So that was one challenge. But after I was back, I could still during week I will write something, and over the weekend I'll do major part of writing. So that's how I handled it.
Again, so I mean, of course, we all have had similar experiences because we have demanding full-time jobs. I'm a very morning person, so I usually sleep very early. So for me, I used to wake up at 4, work till 6, and then of course, whenever something clicked in your mind, since I'm into equity research, I would read up about a company, and a random fact about RJ would come up, and then I would chaotically open the other doc and I would just paste it there. So basically for the first 4 to 6 weeks, I made a dump yard of RJ's information. And of course the deadline was nearing, so once I started feeling the pressure, again it translated into all-nighters, and I started organizing it, and of course a lot of calls with Neil and Aparajita, because like I touched upon earlier, my style of writing is completely different. So I used to call them, I used to tell them, okay, these are the sub-pointers, this is the kind of information I'm putting in, and then I used to send it to them. They used to do grammar checks, they used to proofread it. So of course a lot of back and forth for me especially. And Neil and Aparajita have been extremely kind to me, for spoon feeding me on that bit. So yeah, that was my difficulty.
So if my boss hears my answer, he's going to double my workload. But it is very much possible to be a financial journalist and also be an author of finance. So it's a related thing.
No, I had a question on this. How much did work from home help here? So.
Yeah, tremendously. No time spent in Mumbai locals going anywhere.
All three of you are from the financial world, investors also, and has studied the investments of Rakesh ji. So as an investors or as a financial persons, have you got any insights or have you learned anything, any pattern or something that would be helpful to you in your own investment or as an advisor?
So I take Rakesh's advice to retail investors at heart. I mean, I'm a retail investor and I'm going to stick with mutual funds. I think there are some excellent mutual fund managers in India today, and they will do a far better job than I can possibly imagine.
Did he invest majorly into mutual funds?
No, he did not. But it was his advice to retail investors कि आप वही करो.
So of course, when I had started reading about RJ a lot of years back, I've picked up some habits of his. But when you actually in-depth research about RJ, you come to know about the stories. You come to understand the quantum of patience he had, the quantum of conviction he had, right? So it automatically makes you a better investor, because next time when you want to sell your stock at a 2x profit, you would actually go back to that story and think to yourself, okay, chalo, let's wait. So I would say that obviously it did not change me overnight, but I think definitely it made me a better investor, because knowing that substance of his, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so similar to what Neil shared. So initially when I started out and writing about stock market, so during market hours, I used to work with digital desk, and you have to really be really quick about producing stories. So if market falls, then I know that I have to invest, but I don't have time to sign up and do that thing right then. So what I learned from him, if you don't have time to track stock market all the time, if you can't do it during market hours, better to stick to mutual fund and do that. So from the very first month that I started my job, I started my SIPs. So that's how I have built my wealth over years, and now I have started investing in individual stocks. But one really need to understand from Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, he did invest in equities 100%, but start with mutual funds. It's the best way to produce wealth.
So this was before Dhoni and Tendulkar started advertising SIPs? Okay. I mean, that's a great campaign otherwise. So, yeah, there is one lady, one gentleman.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Anish Teri. So my question is, if Rakesh were to read this book, what would his reaction be to this?
Really great question. I believe he would have loved it. He would have loved it. That's what I believe.
I mean, of course, there would have been a few adjectives for certain sections. Maybe some parts he wanted to edit, but I think largely he would have loved it. Yeah, I agree with Aparajita.
Yeah, for certain sections, like Vivek said, that endless stream of unparliamentary. Right.
Hello. Yep, this side. Hi, I'm Neerav Karkera. I have a question for you guys more from an author's standpoint. So a personality like RJ and the life that he's lived both personally and professionally, it's very easy to form a variety of perspectives of him as a person and the life that he's lived. Has it ever happened that you three as authors have gotten onto a different plane altogether and there was a disagreement on any episode or such? And if there was, how did you resolve and arrive at common ground? So the question's more around how do you collab, what were the challenges and high points basically?
Especially when you lived in different, but you guys were in Pune, she was in Delhi. So physically also you were not in the same space.
Yeah, so thankfully by then we'd gotten used to work from home, and talking to each other, collaboration was not such a big issue. There were certain guardrails, so we took a very conscious decision that if we had heard some rumor about him, but we were not able to prove it, with documents, or a source who's willing to come on record if necessary, we would not carry it. So we took a very kind of conservative approach there.
Hi, this is Mayur here. We spoke about asset allocation, and he was not extremely diversified and did not give enough attention to various assets, including most important asset, which is health. And I heard him talk about on television how he should have taken care of his health much better. Can you throw some light on that aspect? And especially, did he regret that, or what were his emotions around that he did not take care of his health enough? Because all of us wanted him to, live long. It would have been more useful to us.
Yeah. Aparajita, do you want to take that?
In fact, the last chapter of the book deals precisely with this.
But not because we never knew him personally, so really not sure about it, that why he didn't focus on it. Obviously, addiction is really very hard to fight. He was quite disciplined about stock market investment, but equally not disciplined about health. And obviously, and sometimes he did want to do it. And he would get himself admitted in hospital so that he doesn't drink, because in hospital, obviously, you won't have any access to booze. He did that. He did try hard, but I'm not sure why it could not happen. And some people did tell us that maybe closure family members, maybe they had to push him hard and it may not happen. But I don't believe that. Eventually, it has to come from within. If it did not, you cannot blame other people that why it did not happen. But I believe it's addiction and it's really hard to fight.
Just to add, I mean, of course, towards the few end of the years, right, he did become health conscious, like the Joffrey story I told, right, instead of that unhealthy fried chana, he used to have boiled eggs, right. I mean, of course, it was quite late, but, keeping that aside, one thing that RJ did was he lived his life grand. Whatever he did it full scale. During the lockdown, I remember there was a viral video where RJ was sitting on the wheelchair. He had worn these very big shoes and he was still dancing on his birthday on the wheelchair. And even Akasa Air launched, he came on air, and a lot of people had raised concerns that he was looking very pale, he was looking very out of energy. So, I mean, of course, take care of your health and live life full size like RJ.
The thing is that discipline and genius rarely go together. So, because most people, there are a lot of people who excel in their lives being disciplined. But if you sort of look around, people who stand out, people who are creative are not very disciplined. So it's one probably comes at the cost of the other. So I mean, this is just random speculation. I have no idea as to what happened in Mr. Jhunjhunwala's life, but.
Hello, my name is Sanya Yanurkar. So now that we're talking about his qualities and specifics, I just wanted to understand that for each of you, what is that one personal or professional quality of his that stood out and something that you would want to inculcate in yourself or, take with you?
So I'll start. There's a very big misconception that RJ never made time for his family, but that's absolutely wrong. Whenever he wanted to, or whenever he had the chance, he made time for his family. So the biggest quality that I would like to take away from him is to make time for my family and closed ones, and yeah, as simple as that.
Yeah, and for me, it's conviction, his confidence, and his faith in what he was doing. So whatever it is, or maybe it could be your professional, personal, wherever. So you have to put faith in what you do, and you have to be unique. So he was a quite unique person. He was not a follower. He was a leader. He would not follow anyone. So this quality I would really want to inculcate in me, that should have my own.
Yeah, so equity and making money from it is inherently a result of optimism. I mean, people who make money from stocks have to be optimists at heart. And that's very difficult. I mean, we all have different personalities, and my personality is somewhat on the pessimistic side. So I tend not to allocate too much money to equities. So if there's anything I want to learn from him, it's to be more optimistic in life and in stocks.
Is anyone else? Yes, sir. You're not audible.
Hello, yeah, Rishi here. I had the chance to trade in the markets in the early 90s in my college days, and apparently Rakesh was a big bear till even Manmohan Singh came, 91, 92, even after reform started, and then he became a big bull. So what was the tipping point, if I can understand that? That's always been something I wondered about. And Aparajita also rightly pointed out an MNC example. He also played a lot on technicals. So he bought a stock for long term, and he played technically in the short term to create some trading gains. Again, if any inspiration on that front. Thanks.
So post-liberalization,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I believe post-liberalization, he went bullish on India, that India is the place to be. So that's what could have been a turning point. And about bearish...
So I think it's a bit more nuanced. So initially he was bullish during the initial Harshad Mehta days. He rode that wave, and then very famously turned bearish, right? I mean, it's very popularly written about in the media. So he had no sort of secular trend in the 90s. He stayed out of the .com bubble. He didn't understand tech stocks, which served him well in the end. So again, there he was clearly not bullish on the market overall. Something clicked in his mind in 2002, 2003. And that's when he accumulated his big wealth creators, Titan, Lupin, Crisil. He wrote an article in ET setting out a thesis for why India is on the cusp of a big economic boom, and that bore out. But what clicked in his mind, to this day, we don't know.
If you've seen Hansal Mehta's The Scam, the answer to your question is there in that particular OTT series, where characters who are similar to him, not the same, they actually explain as to why this being bearish business is too difficult, because you need to short sell and there are other problems that come with it. And that's when they sort of, the character similar to RJ and a character similar to other people, other big bulls of today, they sort of get around to the realization that it makes more sense to buy stocks and sort of hold on to them than get into this short selling business. Now, I don't know how much of it is factually true, but it's there. You want to say,
No, I just wanted to thank everyone. Everyone's been so patient and kind. We're very grateful that you're all here and you've taken out some time on a very, very busy weekday for all of you. So thank you very much.